Welcome to Bachademia, a podcast so educational two professors could be hosting it. Hi, I'm Dr. Danielle EC, and joining me is Dr. Bill Henneman.
Welcome everybody to Bachademia. This is the best we're going to get. We're already laughing because I can't count to three or backwards from three. This week, we have a returning guest, one of my favorite people in the world, one of my best friends, Dr. Kristi Marchesani. What's the word, K March? What do you got for us?
No, just, enjoying summer, enjoying being out and about, and just trying to make the best of things. Looking forward to better days. That's my mantra.
I like it. So we have our question of the week. We're getting right into this. We're not even going to do pleasantries because we got a lot to talk about. What is your favorite summer food?
Ooh,
I will go first because Kristi had to listen to me on the 4th of July insist that I get a hot dog, and I never eat hot dogs, but I love the Nathan's hot dog eating competition. And so every 4th of July, I get a hot dog and then I feed hot dogs to my dogs. And that is like my tradition. And so I love, they're horrible for you. I have one day a year where I eat like 6 of them, and it's the 4th of July.
See, if I watch that competition, it ensures that I don't eat hot dogs for another year. It's so gross and repulsive that it deters me from hot dogs. So it's interesting that we have different reactions.
It is gross, but it makes me want a hot dog. Yeah, whenever I watch it, I'm like, God, that hot dog looks good.
Oh.
Dipped in
Water and stuff going out and off. Yeah, good.
Joey Chestnut set the world record again. So he's the Babe Ruth of gorging himself.
Yeah. Well, I can take it on a little more pure direction.
Oh.
Because my summer pleasure is gardening. And so when we get vegetables, it's like the happiest moment. I'm like a proud mother with these vegetables. I'm out there checking. I have pictures of them. Sometimes I post pictures online. And then if anyone comes over, I have to tell them what they're, what that they're eating is from my garden. So I just love summer fresh vegetables from the garden, or shout out to farmers market because we appreciate our local farmers as well. But that's a happy place for me.
Kristi brought me a whole bunch of kale, and it has really been not that everyone doesn't think I'm a total slob. I also put some kale on top of the hot dog, really church it up, make myself healthy.
That's awesome. I admire gardeners. My fantasy self wants to garden, and then I realize that it's hot, and I'm not very good at keeping things alive. So I appreciate my farmer's market. My sister brought me some kale this last week, so we've been eating kale around here too. I like a lot of food, so this is a hard question for me. On one hand, I do like when it's corn season in Iowa and I can eat lots of fresh corn on the cob. But I also just love fruit in the summer. There's something about if you've had a hot day at the pool or whatever, and you come home and you eat fruit and it's just so good. And ice cream. I could eat ice cream every day of the summer. So
I like that.
So Bill, did you eat anything interesting on your wilderness adventure? What does one eat while you're in the wild?
Yeah, so I have my own trail mix I make, and it's peanut M&Ms and cranberries and pecans. Really good. And then you buy these freeze-dried meals. You boil water, you dump them in, and they're pretty good. And so I have 2 little neighbor kids, and I think tomorrow I'm going to go over for lunch and show them how to make them. And so I have a chicken fried rice one. I have a chicken and biscuit one. So I bought too much, and so I thought that'd be kind of fun. So
you didn't hunt and gather.
I did not.
So, okay.
Kristi's husband, who allegedly might show up midway through this episode, I have no idea if he will or not, but he has a habit of eating things when we're out in the wild. And it is frightening because
just pick any berry, mushroom, pop it in.
I think he knows what he's doing, but one of these times he's going to end up like an anaphylaxis. So, all right. So we're not even starting with the episode. We're starting. Danielle dropped a bomb on us right as she showed up here. A bunch of Bachelor stars got $20K in PPP loans for influencing. So the major people who are cited in this are Tayshia, Ari, Colton got one, Dale Moss, and I think that is it that I'm seeing on this. And they all got them for their like one person LLC companies. So LCCs. Thoughts? This was for the COVID, for like the personal payment protection program loans for people who like small businesses to get bailed out.
So your best buddy, Nick Vale, had a few words to say about this bill that I thought it was pretty mature, his response, much to the chagrin of Bill. He was sort of like, look at like when you're on the Bachelorette, especially as a lead, that you get all these opportunities that you would never have, you know? And so he's like, and also when you're an influencer, that like you have to think about the sorts of influence that you're going to have and what you're modeling for other people. And he's like, he sort of said something along the lines of, you know, behind closed doors, you have to do what you would do in front of people too. And he's like, I really think that a lot of people just didn't think this would be public knowledge and that they wouldn't have done it if they would have known that everybody would have found out. And so he's like, so they shouldn't have done it. Like, and for the most part, I agree that this is like meant to be a relief for people that need it and they don't need it. So like, that's that. On the other hand, I do think like, you know, some people are like, oh, it's influencing. I don't know. Like, I can't, with regards to that, I feel like there's these things, what is business? What counts as like legitimate business? I don't know. So like, if that's what they're doing that makes them money, you know, whatever. But like, I generally fall on the side of like, yeah, you don't need this. This is meant for people that need it. Like, mm-mm.
And you think that 20,000 went, like, if you're an influencer, do you pretty much use that to like buy like jewelry and makeup? And like, I mean, what is this money going towards? Like, what are your expenses as an influencer?
Well, Tayshia's legal counsel said that as a business owner, television and podcast host, and brand ambassador, Tayshia obtained a PPP loan that enabled her to hire an employee to whom she offers market-based pay and benefits. Since exhausting the PPP loan funds, but in light of the growing economy, Tayshia has committed to retaining her employee for the foreseeable future. I don't know what any of that means, but
she couldn't have afforded that employee without it. You know, I think like that's some of my, you know, like it's kind of my question. And
right. I guess so. They obtained the loan under the independent artists, writers, and performers on their PPP application. So I guess my only thing is that they're taking money away from somebody who like sells stuff at our local, like the Ragged Edge. You know, there's artists there. Like Tayshia got the same loan that those people might get, and I hope that like they got that loan too.
Well, I mean, I think we could have a whole conversation about the administration of this loan. I mean, from what I have heard, there are a lot of people that were very worthy, especially, you know, here in the state. You hear about some businesses that were owned by, you know, Black-owned businesses or minority-owned businesses that really could have used this money. And then you hear something like this, and it leaves a little bad taste in your mouth. But yet, how did they get approved and some other worthy people did not? So that's another whole issue. But I don't know if it was necessary for them to apply just because they can.
I bet they spent a lot of money on ring lights. for like their like
really
selfies.
good ring lights.
Mhm.
Yeah. Mm-mm.
No, you're not liking it. You're not
No.
buying it.
Yeah. That's all I got to say. I'm done.
All right, on to the episode. So the episode starts off with some hardcore bromance. Danielle, you were really into this.
Okay, so one, I just like love, whether it's friendship or romantic. I'm here for connection, folks. So I appreciated that, but then also like from a standpoint of thinking about how models that we might see for how to do masculinity, I thought that it was a lovely counter to the competition that you oftentimes see among the guys. So yeah, I'm here for it.
I liked it. I thought it was a really interesting, I'm going to use a big word, juxtaposition. I don't even know if I used it correctly, but of like those two guys who seem to be getting along, and then this like weird, like, you know, there's always this one guy that's the pariah and everybody, and it seems like Aaron has decided that he is going to like decide whom the house shall hate for that day. And it's like they seem to be getting along, and then Aaron decides, let's not like this guy. And then like, yeah, so
I think they're both adorable, and I'm supportive of any kind of connection they want to make. And I think it's great. I think what Danielle said, just showing that you can be guys and have some sort of physical like affection in is very healthy. So I liked it.
we were talking at in our house about like, it's interesting because it seems like the producers stoke competition, right? But wouldn't you, and one of the things I value very much about Elaine, my wife, is that she can get along with people of the same sex and not be really weird and jealous. And I feel like a lot of the show is based around the competitors being like weird and jealous and backbiting with each other. And I would think that like, I don't think it'd be attractive to somebody.
Maybe Elaine just picks friends that are not as up to her level. So
that's true.
that it's not even a competition. I mean, most of us can't compete with Elaine. So
That's yeah. Ask
Elaine is
Kristi's
awesome.
mom is the charter member of the Elaine fan club. Like Kristi's mom loves Elaine,
Kristi's mom loves everybody,
but she likes Elaine a
Bill-
lot more than me.
Bill will not admit that Bill gets a lot of affection and meals from my mom. So
That's true.
he's blushing.
Well,
So let's
I
talk about the love.
I think that like, I do think that there's this idea that you're supposed to be jealous and competitive with people of the same sex, especially in the situation that they're in. And so I do think that it's an interesting, it's cool to see them counter that.
Yeah. So America can't stand for niceness very long. So then Tayshia comes in and introduces Blake, and the guys are not happy, predictably. I think we've talked about this before, but do you think the guys have the right to be mad? I always think it's interesting when they bring someone in midway and the guys are like, this isn't fair, as if there are like rules.
I get it. I mean, they've been there. They've been going through the emotional roller coaster of being part of this. And then there's someone else that kind of moseys in. But I mean, the result of the show is supposed to be that Katie finds her person. And if this person is potentially that match, then I think it has to play out. But my money is not on Blake.
Really?
No, I'm not convinced of him. I think he's a nice guy. I'm just not sure. Like, I don't get the chemistry with him and anybody. I just think he needs to be up in the wilderness, wandering and eating berries and whatever. I don't get him. I think he's cute, but just not. I don't think he's gonna go.
What's interesting is substitute co-host Kim Hanna was like all in on Blake for a while, and then the last time she's like not in on him now, so she's really turned.
Well, I think that he's a complicated character because when he first came on to Claire's season, he was really thoughtful. He bought her that book. And then I think when he fell so hard for Claire and then turned around and fell so hard for Tayshia right in a row there, it was hard to not start questioning how legitimate those feelings were, or if he's just like, you can put sub anyone in and he's just gonna fall for them. I do find his chemistry with Katie to be interesting, which, we can talk about a little bit later.
Oh, let's go right into
yeah.
it. The producers don't want to start drama, so they give him the individual date. They're like, let's just let's ease him in. Let's give him the first date.
I do give him props. I think he's handled coming into the house better than some other people have. Like, just lay low, like, just be humble. Even if in your head, you're like saying, I deserve to be here. I think he did well on that.
I did appreciate his little speech where he was like, this is awkward. I understand you guys feel bad. I don't like it. You don't like it. And I felt like if they wouldn't have given him the individual date, they probably would have, but then it was like, oh, and you're going on the individual date. Fuck off. So they go on the individual date. They ride horses. They agree they like to travel. What do we think about the chemistry?
So what I like about the two of them together is they do seem to have a little bit of a different energy than, say, she has with Greg or Connor or Mike. And it's a playful energy that you don't see quite as much. And so when they do end up having a more serious conversation later on, and I felt like that was an interesting moment in terms of seeing how they navigated more serious conversation as well. So, I mean, I feel like they have an interesting chemistry. I'm just not sure, like, I'm kind of with you, Kristi, like, I'm not sure if this is like final match kind of chemistry.
Yeah, I felt like maybe could be more platonic. Like, they are very alike and they do like to laugh, and they share some things, and I thought he did a nice job navigating the conversation with her. So I don't think he's a bad guy. I just didn't feel like maybe that was the ultimate romance for her.
I feel like he has Bachelor in Paradise written all over him. Like, he's a good Bachelor in Paradise contestant because he falls in love with everybody. And so I'm hoping he gets sent home here pretty soon, and then he ends up on Bachelor in Paradise.
But what if you come into the show because you want to be on Bachelor in Paradise? Does that mean you're on the show for the wrong reasons?
I feel like that is a totally acceptable reason. Like, to be the Bachelor, that is the wrong one. But to get on BIP, that is fine. Like,
so I'm going to rewind us just a little bit. So I was thinking a lot about like why the guys get so upset by these like late entries, because like it happens all the time. Like, you have to sort of almost like see it coming. But for some reason this season more than in maybe others, I realized, oh, I understand why. If you think you're one of the front runners like Greg, and you feel like you have this relationship, and maybe you feel like, oh, like she knows it, but she has to go through this process, and then they bring someone else on. I think you're like, but like, why would you need to bring someone else on if you are already sure about me? Right. And so I think that was more obvious to me maybe in the past as to like why that makes them so upset. So I don't know. I was thinking of that. I wanted to throw that out. So that's why I think Blake's such a threat.
He's gonna like ruin all these other relationships. Is that what you're saying?
Well,
he's like the dark horse.
No, it's that he destabilized their sense of security.
Gotcha.
I think they're like, if she already knew that I was the one, but she was just going through this because she's committed to the show, then like she wouldn't need to bring on and explore another relationship.
Right. Kind of like last season where they're like, we're bringing 4 more girls because none of you are adequate. We're bringing a whole new crop. So like this time it felt a little less like that because, Blake had this connection and whatever the story is. But I can see that vantage point that people would feel like, wait a second, aren't we good enough? So, yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't be happy if I was dating someone and then they like brought another person, like just looking, just checking, just testing the field. So at dinner, Katie and Blake, they discussed Katie's sex positive attitude and her experience with sexual assault. Good job to ABC. They put a trigger warning up. Danielle and I decided it was specifically because we chided them for it on one of our podcasts. And I mean, that's what we're here for. Thoughts on the conversation, how Blake handled it? Thought it was interesting. I thought it was an interesting conversation and the way he addressed it. Elaine and I were talking about it this morning, and it's one thing to say you're sex positive. I feel like saying you're sex positive really doesn't mean anything. It's really an action, right? So he was like, I too am sex positive. It's like, well, really, to be sex positive is when somebody says they like this or they don't like this, or they are uncomfortable or comfortable with this, is that you accept them and talk through it. So I feel like a little bit that we're losing the whole meaning of being sex positive here, because everyone's like, I am also sex positive. It's like, but
I kind of worry that there's like this idea that in order to be sex positive, you have to have a reason for why, right? Sort of like this question of like, well, what made you sex positive? Well, like I decided to be because I think it's a great way of like a great relationship to have with sex and your partners. Like so while I appreciate Katie sharing, I do think that there's this way that it's been sort of set up that like almost suggests like, oh, well, how'd you get that way? Like,
yeah.
I do think that I thought Blake's response to her sharing her story was a good one. I was a little anxious when he asked her, so like, why are you sex positive? I was like, you're putting this person kind of on the spot, like not really knowing that there might be a story like hers behind that question. And so I was a little, during that. But I also thought it was interesting because her sharing that with the guys in the story circle date, I think was an important moment that she shared with them. And for her and Blake to be sharing that already, I think really also sort of made the relationship move deeper a lot faster.
Kristi, anything to add?
No, I think that you guys have covered it. So
awesome. Then they go and see Blake Gets a Rose, and then they listen to a country band. I can't remember what it was called. It was like Braden Larson, Trip Carson, Ryder Shelton. I don't know, something like that. Did anyone buy the album?
No, I was wishing I was home so I could fast forward through it, but I was at another house, so I could not. But
no,
I always fast forward through the fireworks and the bands and the whatever. I am a romantic, but I just like, okay, let's keep going.
I love it because like because it's like such a like dorky bachelor moment, right? You're like, and now like, because I also think that it would be kind of odd. Well, I think most of the show would be awkward, but like to be like just the two of you like making out in front of this like person 2 feet from you playing the guitar, singing,
hoping to get their break.
And you have to pretend that they're like your favorite band. That's the other thing. They're always like, oh, it's Trip Hansen, I love him. And it's like, you don't know who the hell Trip Hansen.
Right.
So I don't know who this band was, but I do think that they were on like American Idol or like one of those shows and did pretty well.
The lead singer was on the second season of American Idol, but I don't know if it was the original thing of American Idol or like when they started it again. So I did not jump onto iTunes and buy any of their music. So
I have no taste, so it doesn't matter. Like
so group date, I'm calling it Murder Ball. And thoughts on Wells and Franco first. For anyone who didn't realize, Franco is the photographer from a couple seasons ago. I love him. I love that guy. I think he should be the new host.
I like him.
Yeah, go
ahead, Kristi.
I was just gonna say, I like when Bachelor doesn't take itself seriously all the time. And I feel like characters like these bring in just a chance to laugh and enjoy and be a little goofy. So I was in support of it. And if you stayed till the very end, like of it, they showed like them doing all these moves and warm-ups and like jumps. And so that was really great because I thought that was fun to see. I thought that showed more personality than tackling someone in the middle of a stupid man game. So
I like both Wells and Franco. I am a little concerned with sort of this caricature though that they make out of Franco that is because it's also such a heteronormative show, and then to have this sort of, I don't really know, but he presents as this very flamboyant, sort of like gay-like character, almost like an exaggerated queer eye for the straight guy that ages me a bit there, but like kind of, you know, thing. And so I really like Franco, and I like, I agree, he adds like this, there's a playfulness to things, and so does, I think Wells is just fun, but I also would just like him sort of like weirded out by the way that they use.
It would help if they balanced him out with another person that identified as gay.
Well, and I don't
Like,
know if he does.
And
Like,
yeah, I
know
think
what
that's
it
the
is.
implication. But like, if they had a person who was out but was not that like stereotype, I think that would. But I think he is very much there to play that role, which is what you're saying, and you know, or shocker, like have him with like his wife, and then be like, oh, y'all assumed wrong.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I don't know. I just, yeah, whatever.
maybe next season they'll bring Colton on with him.
oh, I think they're winding Colton up for. I think he's going to be back on, and yeah,
There's
Isn't he
something.
like doing his own reality show?
he is on like Netflix or something.
With his
So.
$20,000 PPP loan?
He only got okay. So Colton only got 11,355. So I have no idea why Colton is only half as deserving as
Maybe he
the
only
other.
requested. Maybe he was, you know,
Oh, that's-
truly conscientious of it.
So this is really interesting. I don't know if this is accurate, but when I was looking into all that stuff, someone was predicting how much Tayshia makes per Instagram post, and it's nuts. It's like she probably makes 20 to 30 grand per post. I cannot imagine making like, that's like my mother, you know, like in-laws yearly salary in a post.
It's ridiculous.
You know, and it's a lot of people's yearly salary in a post. So I don't know. It's just like wild to me.
That's why she needs the ring light. That's like she'd only be making like 5,000 to 6,000 if she didn't have that expensive ring light that she got with the PPP loan.
Well, so a lot of it has to do with how many followers you have, and then you get kind of paid out per like. So if you were a bachelor or bachelorette and you have like 2 million followers, and then you make a post and you get, let's say, even just 100,000, 200,000 likes, you're getting paid out per like.
Oh, wow.
So who here follows any bachelor or bachelorettes?
Absolutely.
I follow Katie. And I'm trying to think if there's anyone else. I had to mute Hannah. But I followed her for a while.
I follow a lot of them. I follow them, but I will say I haven't been on social media much lately. So I follow them, but like it's not like I go and like check up on them regularly.
Comments on their what they're doing and
We're besties in my head.
Katie's responded to some of my comments. So we're basically like, Danielle and I were talking about making locking heart necklaces for the two of us, like the BFF ones, and then the restraining order.
Yes.
So the game they play makes no sense other than like trying to get somebody hurt. And then it does get somebody hurt. Any thoughts on this? I don't get it.
I dislike the competitions, these type of competitions, and maybe you guys can help me understand this, but like, is it really helpful to Katie to see a group of guys out there all revved up, you know, having to prove themselves and being like somewhat physical and violent towards each other. I just like that would not be my idea of deciding who my future mate would be. So, and then besides that, having that image of Hunter and that onesie, I want it all gone. So that's my take on that.
The sexual objectification of being like, and we will put them in these singlets was, I was just like, it's so over the top. And
I don't get it. I don't understand what the point of it. And I think Kim and Danielle had a really good point last week. They had a lot of good points, probably because I wasn't on the show to derail the conversation. But like, you don't have any time with any of the people. Like, it serves no like usefulness, right? Like, Katie's not talking to him. She's not interacting with them. Like, it's just
reacting in horror at what she's like for.
Yeah. And it was like a train coming down the tracks. You could tell. And it's like, I've played enough sports that it's like one person tackles a little hard and the other one tackles harder. And the next thing you know, it's like a fist fight. And yeah.
I wanted to talk about, so Michael's like, I have a dad bod. Like, sorry about my dad bod. And I was like, dude, you just like have a normal amount of body fat.
Yeah.
Like, it's not even a dad bod. Like, you're just like a normal like person.
Like, I was like, man, if Aaron, it was like, what could Aaron say that would make him a little more douchey? And he was like, been spending a lot of time in the gym, so this thing's working out for me. It's like, first off, dude, it's not working out for anybody, honestly. Like, no one is looking at those singlets and being like, yeah, it was, I don't know.
Yeah, but he was very noticeable though. I just have to admit, I have no, like, I'm not an Aaron fan, but I just have to go on record saying, like, I thought he kind of popped out.
Good thing Jorge's not
so
here.
the time in the gym, it was really beneficial.
I'm telling your husband.
Well, he would actually do it in one.
That's true. When we were watching it, you were like, "Oh, is that Aaron?" It's like, settle down, Kristi. Settle down. That's why I don't wear stuff like that. It's just because people would be like, "Whoa, Bill." Whoa.
Especially with the hearts on the behind, huh?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So my first day of high school, my dad was a teacher there and a wrestling coach, and he wore a wrestling singlet to play this like basketball game in like this like jamboree thing. And it was like horrifying to like me as like an 18-year-old. My dad's running around in a singlet. Everybody else is like in basketball shorts. So that's thanks, amazing. Dad.
Yeah. Well, we have someone who I think is joining us, and he can tell how he used to horrify his kids by wearing a Speedo to the YMCA for swimming.
I'm so excited.
Yeah, this is pretty amazing. I didn't think this would happen, but I had to give that little update there. We'll see if he
ever gets connected.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if we've had, other than Bill and Elaine, have we had a couple on the show?
No, we keep trying to get Ryan, but he won't. He's too cool for school.
We'll get him. Part of it is, I will say, it is hard for us to both watch, right? Mm-hmm. So the reason I get to watch is because he, like this last time he took our kids out to ride around their scooters for like an hour and a half. And so I was able to pay attention without screaming kids in the background. So, oh no.
Well, see you, Jorge. Okay, we'll wait for him to get back. But at the cocktail party, Michael shares his story of loss with the guys. They rally around him. Any thoughts on that? I feel like we kind of talked about it. I have an extra credit, mini extra credit. But so we talk a lot about love on here, but disclosure is also very beneficial for friendships. And interestingly enough, if you look at the research, what we find is that disclosure and friendship get you almost further because there's not the fear of losing friendship. So there's this interesting dichotomy with relationships, romantic relationships and friendships. So one of the hallmarks of a romantic relationship is commitment being that I'm only going to be in a romantic relationship with you. And that's a generalization, but most romantic relationships are kind of built around that. Where friendships, there's this idea that I'm committed to you as a friend, but I can have other friends. For both of them, disclosure really helps move that friendship along and create deeper bonds. However, there is this kind of thought with a romantic relationship that if I disclose and then this person breaks up with me, you know, where does that leave me? How might that information get out? Where with friendships, you know, you don't think about losing a friend. You kind of make friends with someone and they're your friends, and you may at some point move away from them, but you can pick back up. So I thought that was really interesting. And I thought it was interesting that Michael said, you know, I purposely did not share this information with you guys because I wanted you to get to know me as a person before that. And I didn't want you to think that I was using it as like my angle, which I thought was very interesting and heartfelt from him. So that's my extra credit. If you want to make friends, disclose things.
I really liked that we got to see how the other men reacted to his sharing. So I've always liked Greg, but I've always sort of, you know how Katie says that he has resting sad face, which I thought was really clever and spot on. So good. And I wasn't, you know, sure about him. I'm like, he's there, you know, I like him. There's something that he's sheepish and that you kind of like adorable and introverted that you kind of like about him. But there's nothing that I was like, this was like a point where I was like, no, I think he might really just be a good guy.
Yeah, I'm a Michael fan. I think that he's legit, and I thought he handled this in such a great way. Like Bill said, he didn't come on and be like, here's why I'm going to be getting time on, you know, TV time, and here's why, you know, people are going to be sympathetic to me, or Katie's going to give me a rose. He just has kind of been very natural with it. It's part of who he is, and he's very genuine. And I also liked seeing the guys respond to him because I thought it was very real. And sometimes in Bachelor, I hate to say it, some things don't feel as genuine and real. So this, sorry, Bill.
No, I agree with you, because it's like when it does seem really like when it is something that's real, it's like you can really tell. You know, like when it is a honest moment, it's you're almost like, oh wow, that was, and I felt like that was very much like you could tell that they were.
Greg had to walk away, like he, you know, like he had to leave the scene. So I thought it was pretty cool.
Connor plays her a song and doesn't button her shirt. I'm in solidarity with Connor today. And Danielle apparently is a Connor simp. She loves Connor. She adores him and said she will fight me. I am not sold on Connor.
Why are you not sold on Connor?
I think he is there to try to get famous. He's played like 3 different songs. He's very much.
You think he's a Jed?
Huh? Yeah. Oh yeah. He's a Jed. Yeah.
I think that Connor is a huge dork, and he's like, I like dressed up like a cat, and like I'm total nerd. And what I got going for me is I can play a few tunes. And like, that's been like, he went to band camp and he was like, this is how I get in with girls. And like, this is just what he knows. And so like, I just think that Connor is a huge dork, but I think he's like a good guy. And I don't think that he's like, oh, I'm on the show because I want to like make my music career soar. Like, there's nothing like rock star about this guy.
Kristi, you break the tie?
Well, I have to go with Danielle. I think he's a good guy.
It's because you're both women, and guys playing guitars is just like,
well, he's
that guy,
nice
me and that guy, him and I would have ended up in an argument and possibly a fist fight in college. I would have broke his guitar at 2 in the morning.
So I think you like him.
Yeah, I think he's very likable. I am thrown by the unbuttoned shirt though. So I'm having a real hard time because I have this like inner conflict of feeling like, oh, he's nice and he might be a good person, but then some of his style choices are questionable. And I know that is not a big factor here, but the shirt thing, just please button up the shirt. Like
That's why I think he's a dork, right? Like he doesn't know.
Yeah.
He's so clueless.
Yeah,
Like,
everyone else is like styled to the
Jordan.
T, like linen capris and like whatever. And he's like here, he's got the shirt open, a chain that I'm like, is that the 80s coming back?
Oh my gosh, some of the fashion choices have been like Elaine had a wonderful comment.
Oh yeah, with his all black turtleneck, but then he had a chain, and Elaine was like, he's wearing that chain, so he's not a mime. And it's like the dude looks like a Bond villain or a mime.
I want to go ruffle up his hair. I want to know what his hair looks like beyond the
I bet it is so crunchy.
Yes.
I bet you'd like try to do it in like a porcupine.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Okay, so then Aaron decides who the people are going to dislike. I sent Danielle what I thought was one of the funnier memes where it's like majority whip Aaron decides who the house will dislike on the next episode. So I think Aaron is the problem. You think he's the problem too? Thoughts on Hunter? I also saw somebody tweet that this is Hunter's villain origin story. This episode was his villain origin story so that they could set him up to be the villain.
I didn't like him from the start. I don't know what it was about him, but he is not gaining any more of my affection each week. He's just more and more kind of just seems a little snide, and I don't know. I don't trust him.
To use that big word you used earlier, Bill, to juxtapose Michael and Hunter, like it feels like Hunter's disclosure is calculated and like being done in order to gain a response as opposed to share a part of himself. And it's where like you felt, and so when you feel that like really genuine sort of disclosure happening with Michael versus this like what feels like calculated, I'm gonna show you pictures of my kids now. It felt like I'm gonna show you pictures of my kids so that you know what I'm sacrificing to be here, and then you'll like keep me. And then I was like so disappointed in her for giving him a rose.
She fought back on social media and said, you don't see what is going on, like you only see a little bit. And she said, there's a lot of interaction you didn't see with Hunter, which I thought was interesting. But so Danielle, what can you tell us about gossip and gender? I feel like this is something you could enlighten us about, maybe like an extra credit.
I got an extra credit. So I wanted to talk a little bit about gossip because you've seen this. One, when you think about gossip, we tend to stereotypically associate gossip with women. And in fact, when I was tweeting during this episode, I wanted to use a GIF and make a comment about gossip, and all of the GIFs were women, right? So it is thought of as women talk, like female talk. And it oftentimes too has a negative connotation. So gossip is oftentimes used to sanction who does not conform to the identity or relationship expectations. So that meme that you were talking about, Bill, like actually like in a lot of ways is showing that gossip is a way that we set rules for how we're going to interact with each other. And sometimes that can be done in unhealthy ways, right? But there's actually like a lot of research, even on kids in play, that shows that both boys and girls use gossip really similarly. And one of the things that I kind of think is obvious if you watch this show is that like gossip happens on The Bachelor and The Bachelorette, right? It is not something that is just regulated to like girl talk, right? What's also interesting is there's research that shows in the workplace, if a woman engages in something that we would describe as gossip, it's seen as negative. But when men engage in the same sorts of talk, it might be seen as important information exchange or networking. There's also some research that suggests that the social function of gossip can have a positive function, so, or it can be productive. So there's something called practice community, where it's this idea that it's talk where you are learning or exploring how a community or group is going to interact with each other. And so that like gossip focus or is sort of like this practice that you have to learn what the rules are. And then of course, like how a gossiper is received is sort of based on the relationship too, and how, whether or not that person already has trust and things like that. So like if you're in an established trusted relationship, someone gossiping like Aaron doesn't look like a turd because you trust them. But because we already don't trust Aaron, or because that's all that we hear from him, like we're going to perceive his gossip as sort of this toxic sanctioning, right? But it is like a way that the guys are sort of saying, hey, these are the rules among us, right? And there are some like, that's like who we're going to like and who we're not going to like, and what behavior we're going to accept and what behavior we're not going to accept. So that is my extra credit on some gossip.
Do you think that Katie set it in motion in a way by from the beginning being very much like, you guys are my eyes and ears and I depend on you and please let me know, and kind of almost set this precedent that that's what she wanted. She wanted them to protect her and to like make sure that they come to her, and it's almost kind of created a monster.
Well, and my guess is that that's like a reaction to her own experience where she knew she was seeing things in the house that Matt James couldn't see. And so she felt like an obligation to do that, but not maybe thinking about what the unintended consequences of that are.
Dynamic
or
it sets up. Like
have we ever seen a season where like there hasn't been that?
No, I can't.
Claire's like more this season.
Claire's, and then she got really mad because the guys were too nice to each other. Like, yeah.
I forgot about that. Oh my goodness. I do feel like there's like more of this, like, we need to protect Katie and tell her, because I do think that she said that. I agree with you, Kristi. Like, I think that she kind of said that.
I know I'm a week late on this, but the like Andrew and Trey, that whole like idea of how do we approach this? I'm going to be honest. And Andrew, I think that's his name, was like, no, let's not create more drama. Let's let her, like, she's going to figure some of this stuff out. And it was interesting to see those two approaches.
Absolutely.
Speaking of Andrew, thoughts on Andrew and hers date? She showed up in Catwoman's outfit, that like leather outfit, which I've spent significant time.
Notice that right away.
Yeah, I've spent significant time in Albuquerque. Thing had to be hot. I guess it was at night though, and it gets really cold there. But
I liked a lot of her outfits this episode comparatively. But yeah, she had like that tight red dress. She looked smoking in. But then like, so she went from like red pleather to black pleather.
So the main takeaway with her and Andrew is Andrew discloses his last serious relationship had issues with race. And Katie talks about that wouldn't be something she would even think about. She also recognized her privilege as being a white woman. And I think, Danielle, you had some thoughts on this?
Yeah, so I kind of struggled with how I felt about her response. Because on one hand, I felt that she's very passionate, and I think for whatever reason, I kind of trust Katie is someone that would maybe do the work that she need to navigate that. But this sort of like, I felt like her sort of response that like, oh, like, I wouldn't let that bother me, F them, like, I'm gonna be a mama bear, is sort of like, and maybe there was parts of their conversation we didn't hear, right? But I felt like it wasn't, you can say, oh, well, I have white privilege as a white woman, but she didn't explain what that white privilege is going to do in the relationship. Like, or what does that mean in terms of like how that may be that you aren't even going to recognize that your kid needs you to be a mama bear, right? Like you can't be a mama bear if you aren't aware of it because of your white privilege, right? So I felt that there's just ways that like what she offered, while passionate, lacked maybe a specificness that I would have liked her to tend to, of like, well, you know, it's not just like, oh, well, like, I'm just not going to care what people think, you know, like or like, what about the times that she doesn't fit in, or when he's going through something that maybe she doesn't understand, or she thinks he needs to do something that he's like, I can't do that as a Black man, right? Like, I think that there's just all of these things that I felt, there are ways that it felt like she was almost not acknowledging her white privilege. So she was like saying, I'm going to acknowledge my white privilege, but then she was offering these really, I felt like sort of generic responses that were passionate. And like I said, like there's reasons that I sort of trust she'd do the work, but I thought that the response didn't show an awareness of what maybe some of those challenges would be. I don't know.
She did state a few times that she felt like, you know, maybe I'm naive or I am naive. So I think she did put out there that she has more to learn, and that she's, you know, her response wasn't like, yeah, I got it all figured out and here's, you know, what I would do. It was like, okay, here's my gut reaction, but I'm naive and I know that there's more that I need to figure out about it. So that gave me a little hope. I felt like she handled it the best she could.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. I thought it felt like she was saying the right things, but then also some of the things she said, it like belied kind of the, you know, what white privilege actually is. So cocktail party. So we're winding down. This was a real episode where it started and it ended with a cocktail party, which is, I think, like the first time this has happened in like seasons upon seasons. We did a poll. Her dress, she had the red dress, and Danielle said, quick, do a poll. And we were debating on if the little like chains were part of the dress, part of her, what was it? It was dress. What was the other thing?
A leg necklace or part of her underwear.
Oh, or intriguing underwear. And it got like 120 votes. And it was definitely, people were like, it is her dress. Like, I don't think they were understanding our subtle humor, Danielle. Like, I knew it was her dress. And then I got a couple like responses that were like, it's clearly her dress.
So I will say, I was like, this has to be her dress. But there were times where it moved in really weird ways that I was like, where is it connected on the dress, right? It's almost like there's like the slit, and then like normally you'd expect it to just go from seam to seam, but it almost looked like it must have connected a few inches behind that, because it had some movement that I would not have expected.
It seemed to invite a lot of handsiness from the guys. I felt like that was just a lot of like, you know, talking and hands on upper thighs and whatever. So it obviously elicited a positive response, I guess, from some of the suitors.
She was rocking it. Like there was no, yeah.
There we go.
As much as Kristi was like, oh, Aaron, I was like, oh, Katie.
It's that
so,
leg necklace.
It's that leg. Yeah. I've got a real thing for leg necklaces.
We're gonna have to run out and get one of those, Danielle.
For like,
they're all the
next
rage.
time I get to go on a date, I'll remember that I need a leg necklace.
I was like, what's hanging out of your dress?
It's a leg necklace. So not much happened during the ceremony, except James and Hunter are mad at each other. And Aaron jumped in. And then Blake, Hunter, and Andrew S. all had roses. Greg, Aaron, Michael, Connor the cat, James from the box, Justin, Mike, Brendan, no idea who that is, and Trey are still, Brendan, bangs Brendan, BB, bangs Brendan, all got roses. He's got the firefighter
Firefighter
training.
training
Yep.
that I keep being
Yep.
like, this is the week he goes home and then he
Yep.
stays. So
Andrew, Quartney, and Josh got sent home.
mhm. Yeah.
Thoughts, lessons learned from the episode.
This is not a good lesson learned, but I will say, I feel like the cocktail part in who got roses and who didn't was like utterly unsurprising. And I think that we're likely to have another rose ceremony like that, where it just seems to me like Justin and James and Brendan, like I feel like they're just not contenders at this point.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm excited for her to get them moving along, so we can get to the good stuff.
Lessons learned, Kristi?
Well, I guess on a positive side, there was a lot of valuable conversations. You know, we talked about Michael disclosing. We have the conversation between Blake and Katie about how, you know, and what her feelings are about her sexual, you know, state. I don't know. That's why I didn't say anything about it before, because I knew I was going to say something really awkward about it. But her sex positiveness, and some other just really like, and Bill, you know, I was a fan of the Andrew Katie date because it was like questions and asking these questions, and I'm a big fan of these little question games. We do it on road trips and other
Kristi loves question games.
Yeah, I think it opens up opportunities for you to give a little more of who you are, even if it's a question that's very obscure about like your favorite subject from elementary. Like, who knows what that might open up to someone else, or what then where that conversation takes you. So I felt like good communication and chances to share with each other is building some positive relationships.
I'll piggyback on you. You get a lot better. You do a lot better in dating if you do something where you talk instead of just having your date watch you try to kill other people. It's a shocker. Spoiler alert. But yeah. Danielle, anything else to add?
No, I mean, I kind of want to echo what you all have to say. I did feel like really for the last couple of seasons, I've been pretty impressed with, you know, even though I have some criticisms about Katie's response to Andrew S's question about interracial relationships, I do think that those are important conversations to have, and it's good that they're having that conversation. And while her response in my mind wasn't perfect, it wasn't a bad one either. It just, you know, so and I think that having those conversations, like her and Blake's conversation, Michael's disclosure, I do think that there's just a lot of ways that the show is letting us listen in on important and difficult conversations.
Kristi, you get the final word.
I get
Words
the
of
final-
wisdom, thoughts, shout outs.
Well, unfortunately, Jorge couldn't make it in. We were so close. He was like there and then he was gone. He's a little elusive that way, but I think he had technical difficulties. So maybe at some point, but we'll shout out to Jorge for almost coming on and joining us. Even though he's like, I don't know what I would say, but yet he has many opinions. So
He does. He started out watching the show and acting like he didn't care. And then the last couple times we've watched it with him, he'll like pipe up and be like, I don't like that guy.
Or we'll drive home and he's like, I don't understand why, you know, like, okay. So despite the fact he couldn't join us, he was kind of here with us in spirit. So, but thank you guys for letting me join your talk today.
Thank you for joining. Thank you.
Yeah,
for
it's always
adding
fun.
in.
I learned stuff from you guys too. It's amazing.
All right.
You're so smart.
It happens accidentally sometimes.
All right. Well, that's a wrap. Next week, Danielle won't be with us, right? So it'll be
Nope.
me and
Going
somebody
to
else.
Oceans of Fun, Worlds of Fun with my kiddos.
Woo!
Nice.
What are you most
Gonna go
excited
see
for?
Aunt
It?
B.
What
What?
are you most excited for at Oceans of Fun or Worlds of Fun?
I think I'm most excited that I am taking a full 7 days off of work, like no work. And I don't remember the last time I took a full 7 days. So it is much needed.
Yeah, great. Have a wonderful time.
Thank you.
I think that's a good way to end. Bye-bye, everybody. Have a good week. You've been listening to Bachademia with your hosts, Doctors Danielle McGew and Bill Henniger. All opinions expressed on this show are solely the opinion of the person who spoke them. If you like our podcast, please consider following us, leaving us a 5-star rating, and a positive review wherever you listen to your podcasts. Also, please share with your friends, family, and other ardent Bachelor content lovers. If you have comments or questions you would like us to address on the show, you can email us at bachademia@gmail.com or on the Twitter with the handle @Bachademia. Thanks for listening.